Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is a tea time chat about underconsumption. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This video is an ongoing series here on the channel where once a month I pick a topic that I see making the rounds in the beauty world and I discuss my thoughts on that topic. So grab yourself a cup of tea because these tend to be long ones and I'm looking forward to all of your thoughts in the comments down below. So definitely leave a comment down below with your thoughts on underconsumption if you have any, and then we can continue the discussion in the comments below this video. So thank you so very much for joining me. Let's grab a cuppa and chat about underconsumption. So the tea of choice today for me personally is a cup of English PG Tips. I got them from England with a bit of milk, but I always drink that kind of tea out of my Marauder's Map Harry Potter mug because it's the same brown color. I don't know why, but I cannot do milky tea in like a clear glass because it doesn't look very appealing. But this, the brown with the brown, it works for me. And yes, I got a haircut. It's a lot shorter now, but I just got home from the hairdresser 2 days ago. I always like to, after I've gotten a haircut, I'd like to just like let it live its life for a second before I wash it and style it myself. But I don't know what it is, man, but hairdressers and styling my hair, it only lasts for half a day and then it always looks really drab. So I decided to go with this little quick half updo today. Just to give my hair some time to acclimatize to having been cut, and then I can wash it tonight. So that's why the hair is a little differently than what you're used to. I hope the next couple of videos that I will be filming, I can have my hair down and it will look okay. That's all of the announcements out of the way. Let's get to this topic of underconsumption, because this was a trend making the rounds on the internet, especially on TikTok over the summertime. And I think everybody has already been given their thoughts about it. But I would like to unpack why I think that the underconsumption trend is actually very deceiving, because a lot of the things that look like it may not be underconsumption could actually still be. And I also wanted to discuss with you how I feel that this underconsumption trend is on the one hand necessary, but also like just minimalism rehashed, which I have so many thoughts, so let me try to unpack them for you, and then we can discuss it in the comments down below how you feel. So when it comes to underconsumption, the way I've been led to understood it from videos I've seen is like a lot of people started sharing like the oldest thing they still had in their house, or look at me doing underconsumption because I only have little this or that and that. But I think that if we take underconsumption as like a general rule of thumb, it's not just about hanging on to things. It's not even about having very little of things. I think underconsumption also means that you're mindful of the things that you do buy and that you try to fit them into your life the best way possible, and that it's not just about like quantities or the age of things that you have. I definitely have some really old things in my home as well. But I especially think that if you're familiar with any of my content, if you've watched my eyeshadow palette collection, or if you see me declutter my wardrobe over on my second channel, you might look at that from a distance and go like, wow, this lady has so much stuff. That is never going to be underconsumption. However, I've only seen a couple of creators talking about this on TikTok, but the camp I fall in is that it's not about the amount you have, it's also how you deal with it and how you use stuff in your home. And I happen to make content about 3 of the things I also have a lot of, which is clothes, eyeshadow palettes, and books. Those are like my 3 main pillars of the content I post online. So that is something that I spend a bit more money on, that I do buy new things in more often than I do other things in my life. But the reason why I have many books, many clothes, many eyeshadow palettes is because I have built collections of these things over time. And they just happen to be very nicely slotting into what I want to show online. So for me, it is definitely also a sign of underconsumption that I have 300 eyeshadow palettes, because it means that I don't just chuck everything away. I actually keep things around, and intend to use them. Same with my clothes. I have clothing items that have been in my wardrobe for more than 15 years at this point. My oldest pair of shoes is like a pair of Doc Martens that I got in London on one of my very first trips to London back in 2009 or 10, I don't remember. So having a lot doesn't always mean that that's the result of also buying a lot. It can also mean consistently buying things in those categories over a longer period of time. And that can still be underconsumption, in my opinion anyways. Yes, I have a lot of books, but a lot of the books that are on my shelves are things I needed to buy for my master's or bachelor's degrees back when I was in college 20 years ago. Yeah, so I majored in English. So yes, a lot of the novels that are on the top shelves that are hard to reach because I don't reach for them often are things I had to buy for classes. Not because they were a fun romp that I just wanted to own. Do I buy those books now? And is that what I talk about mostly? And is that what you see mostly in my videos? Yes, but I also tend to read up to 40 to 50 books a year. Not as many as a lot of people do online. I mean, how can you read 200 books a year? Like, then you're really not doing anything but reading besides work. And I have a life. I make videos online. I like to go dancing. I work out. I have friends. I have family that I would like to see. I like going to concerts. I like watching Netflix. There are so many other things. And then I feel like with how much I still read besides that, yeah, I need to also bring in new books in a way in order to be able to read that many books. So for me, having much of something doesn't necessarily mean that that is a sign of overconsumption. I try to keep things very limited. There are months where I buy little to no makeup at all. I try to test out everything I receive, even if it's PR. I try to review everything. I want to go back to my favorites, so I try to use up things. I try to hit pan on things, so to really use them consistently for a longer period of time. I also try to make sure that I go back to my favorites with eyeshadow palettes, and then I just create content around me going back to these older things. I have so many fun clothes and I want to show off how I style them. However, when I do a dedicated styling video, it doesn't do well. But now I do weekend outfits videos and I just film the outfits as I'm wearing them right before I head out the door to work. And it's been a game changer for me. So just showing you what I actually wear is something that a lot of people seem to enjoy. So that way I can sort of still create the content and I can show off my very old 15-year-old vintage blazer that I bought in London on the same trip, I believe, as the Doc Martens, or maybe a year before that. I no longer remember. But I just have a lot of stuff in the categories that I show online, not only because I show it online, but also because those are the things where some of my passions lie. But the things I don't feel very passionate about, home decor, those kind of things, I'm not going to change. I don't have fall decor in my home. The only thing I have decor for is Christmas. And then I put up a Christmas tree and I hang the lights in it and the ornaments I have for the tree, and that's it. Nothing in my home changes much throughout the year because I find it very wasteful to have all these things. I used to be much more into candles, but I was like, they just set off my asthma. I don't really enjoy that at all. I have a lot of plans. They change with the season, so I like seeing that. But I don't need anything, like I don't need to buy new pillows or whatever and change the entire color scheme of my home. I really don't get that. I've also not been a gadget lover. I know some people always need to get like the new iPhone the minute it comes out. I literally have like the most basic phone ever. It just needs to function and it needs to suit my lifestyle, and that's about it. It's one that I want to buy like from scratch. Like I buy a phone every couple of years and it needs to be cheap enough for me to make that purchase in one go, because I no longer want to be like stuck to like a loan of like paying off your phone, because it ends up costing so much more than buying the phone itself like straight up. So that's what I've been doing. Also, when it comes to like homeware stuff, I bought new pans and stuff when I remodeled my kitchen because I had an induction cooker all of a sudden, so none of my pans worked anymore. but I had pants in there that I had had since I first moved out of college. They were 20 years old and I was still using them. So I think with underconsumption, it's just about trying to live your life and making sure that the things you have, that it suits your lifestyle. And for me, that makes sense. And I think that if we all lived our lives that way, it would be a lot better. When I do buy things now, especially for instance, clothing, I tend to be a little bit more mindful. I tend to do a lot more vintage items nowadays. I tend to shop more from more sustainable brands. Things like Cezanne and Lucien Yak and Joni Clothing are brands I discovered in the past year, 2 years or so. So I have been paying more attention to what things are made of and all that. So I've replaced a lot of the things in my wardrobe because things had started to fall apart, or they were no longer right for me, or the fabrics just weren't that great for me. So I have been like buying quite a lot of clothes, especially during COVID time, but it had a purpose to make sure I have a wardrobe that's gonna last me at least like 10, 15, 20 years until things start to get holes. Like I've sort of made the investment now, and then I can just add bits and pieces here to update it for the season. But even if I update something for a season, I tend to pay attention to trends, because when a certain color or texture or print is trending at that moment, I know it's going to be easier for me to find the items that I like, but I do need to like the trend to begin with. So we're having like pointed toe shoes again. I have plenty of pointed toe shoes in my wardrobe already. I don't need to buy any. I really don't. But I love me a bit of leopard print, and something that I didn't own yet is a leopard print pair of trousers. And then Lucien Yak did a pair, and I was like, those are perfect. So then, because leopard print is now everywhere, I know it's going to be easier for me to find that print in a style I like that's going to suit my body. So that's what I sort of keep an eye out for when it comes to trends, to then sort of add things to into my wardrobe. For years, burgundy has been really, really hard to find in stores. Like there were bits and pieces here and there, but they were very rare. And now burgundy is trending and it's everywhere. So if you were looking into like buying something in burgundy, this is probably the season where you're gonna be more likely to find something in that color that you will like. So that's sort of how I deal with trends. It's not that I want to buy into the trend. It's just like, I know I look good in burgundy, so I would like to buy some burgundy items to make sure I have those in my wardrobe. And that's how I go about it. Not to try and like be trendy and all that, because I have plenty of burgundy already, just like I already have plenty of leopard print. I found out the other day as I was clearing out my shoe collection, I've got 3 pairs of leopard print shoes. I've got a leopard print scarf, I've got a leopard print coat, I've got a leopard print blouse ×2, and I've got a short sleeved one. I just didn't have many leopard print bottoms for like the fall season. So that's the only thing I added, but I don't need to go out and buy more leopard print anytime soon. You know what I mean? So that's sort of how I factor that in. When it comes to makeup, of course, I want to, like, I almost have an obligation to bring a certain new amount of makeup into the channel, because I film videos with it, because people want to hear my thoughts on when Essence and Catrice do their new stuff. People want to know how I feel about certain palettes, perhaps. So those are the things I tend to buy, and that's what I sort of focus my content on. Not only because I know that's gonna do well, but also because those are the things I know I'm willing to put my money towards. I stopped buying limited edition Essence and Catrice stuff a couple of years ago, because I felt that whenever I did that, yes, the video did really well. It would get a bunch of views. It was really, really good for the channel. But I stopped doing it because I felt like every year when I sat down to declutter my makeup collection, all of those limited editions things were the first things to go. And I would have a lot to declutter, but I just felt like so weird. Like it's just this cycle of I buy stuff, use it once, and then I'm already going to pass it on to people, or sometimes even throw it away because the quality was just never as good as I know Essence and Catrice could be. So when they announced another one of these like collabs with Disney, I was like, am I going to buy this? Yes or no? It was always a scramble to find all the products as well, because this web shop had these things up and this online store had these things up, and they would never get to stores here. So it was very difficult and sort of like this rat race to try and get it all on time. And I was like, you know what? It's not worth the effort. It's not worth my time and effort to try and do videos on these limited editions anymore, because the time frame I have to sit down, test out the makeup, film a video with it, and then I never ever get a chance to use these things again because nobody can buy it anymore. And very often the quality is a bit nah, and then I end up decluttering it. So yes, there are sometimes collections that I find interesting, that I like the look of, so those I can still do, but something has to truly draw me in order to be able to do that. Same thing with Kiko. I like to try out a couple of new bits from Kiko every single year. I'm trying to sort of make my way through that brand, so I have an idea on pretty much the entire collection they have to offer. That's sort of like my goal in the end. But Kiko as well, they do limited edition collections all the time. And yes, I have invested in a couple of these over the years. And again, they are videos that get a lot of views, but then I just end up with so much product that doesn't end up being right for me, that I'm like, oh. So I'm more so aimed at now buying things to like only the things that truly interest me. Will I still be doing the biannual updates from Essence and Catrice? Those I feel I can still do, because there are most of the time products in those new ranges we get every fall. Well, it's like fall, winter, and spring, summer is like the seasons they split it into. Those are the lines where I feel I can find the gems. Not all of it is going to work, but there are actually truly good products in there that I want to use up, that I want to go back to, that end up being my favorites. It's always the products from the regular ranges that I like best. Same for Kiko, same for MAC, same for so many other brands. So that's definitely something that I've put into this channel as well, is that I just stopped buying these limited edition collections. Not because it didn't make for good content, it's really, really good content, but I just felt it just got too expensive, and like I said, it was a time crunch, and I just get rid of so much of it anyway, so that just feels like such a shame when I, want to try out those things, and I just declutter it all over. So I try to be more mindful of picking and choosing what I actually want to bring into my collection. This year in 2024, I traveled quite a bit, which allowed me to go to destinations where they had Sephora, which allowed me to go into store and actually swatch things and see things, so I didn't have to make the mistake of like buying something online, getting it home, and like just upon swatching knowing, oh, this wouldn't work for me. This was the case with well, I could have swatched that here because we do have Huda Beauty in store here as well, but those Obsessions, like the 9 pans that Huda Beauty does, there was this like creamy Obsessions palette at the start of the year, and when I saw the tester in Sephora in Spain when I was there just absolutely wrecked, I was like, I knew that would just be so messy to use, so I don't want to go out and buy that. Like, I swatched a couple of the shades and I was like, the shades are beautiful, the texture isn't for me. And that's definitely something that has really helped me to not just buy something willy-nilly. I will now tell myself, okay, that's when I go there, so I still have another trip planned to Germany for November, so they have Sephora there. I want to check out the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette to see how warm toned it actually is, and give it a bit of a swatch and see if they have it in store there, because I know that Sephora stocks Natasha Denona. So I know I will be able to see it in real life, check it out before like buying it. It looks pretty online, but then I'm never ever sure whether it's going to be right for me. And that's definitely something that happens if you live in a makeup desert like the Netherlands, where so many things are only available online, or like even like shades of foundation ranges of brands that are actually available in store. They will only stock a few shades in the shop that you can actually swatch, and the rest of it is still online only. bane of my existence, but I have found that being able to travel to these destinations has been a luxury that has really helped me to like tone down the spending on makeup, because I don't just have to buy something and hope for the best that it's going to work for me. And it's just been very helpful in finding shades and making the right decisions and being able to swatch something. It's just so incredibly helpful for making it work for yourself. I know that for a lot of people that also goes for clothes, like they want to try on the clothes live before making the purchase. But with clothing, I don't know why, I have this really weird talent of looking at an item online and then I can just gauge whether it might be right for me or not. Like, I'll read the description, I'll read the sizing, if they have pictures on someone else's body, I can usually like envision what it might look like on me. And so I don't shop clothing sizes, I shop what it looks like, if that makes sense. I'm not even sure if I'm making sense, but if you try to like, oh, I'm always this size, you're never just this size, because every brand has slightly different sizing, which I know a lot of people find very annoying. But I will, for instance, on H&M, I know exactly my size in most pieces. And then I read the reviews if there are any. And then if the reviews say, oh, you need to size down in this, and I'm like, okay, I'll size down in it. Depending on the look I want to go for. The way I sort of go about shopping online is that not only can I look at it and quite easily know whether it's right for me, very often if I return anything to an online shop, it's not because it doesn't fit, it's because the fabric is trash. That's the only thing I cannot see online. So it will say something like, oh, it's like a viscose or like a cotton and linen blend, and then I get home and then it's scratchy like there's no tomorrow. That's the only thing I cannot filter through looking at images and like whatever. But before I decide to hit buy on a lot of things, I will go into like the sizing recommendation and like I will look at everything before I hit buy. So yes, I do make returns, I definitely do, but for the most part, especially in the past year or so, when I buy clothing online, it's a forever kind of deal. I hardly ever need to get rid of things or return things. But for instance, the new fall winter drop from H&M that happened in September, I found so many good things, or at least it looked like it online. And everything fit me, but then like they have this really, really pretty burgundy blouse, and the one thing that's missing in all of the blouses that I have is a good burgundy. I have a dark red, but it's not quite burgundy. It doesn't have that wine color to it. So if anybody knows of a place that does really good, like preferably silk burgundy blouses, I'm hoping Cezanne do some in the next couple of months for winter. I hope they do their clos blouse in the burgundy, but they haven't yet. So I'm still hoping that sometime in the next like upcoming months that we still have burgundy as a trending color, that's gonna happen, because that's like a gap in my wardrobe. But yeah, H&M had one that looked like it was gonna be perfect, and then I got it in, I put it on, and it was the worst quality polyester I have felt in a long time. Was it soft? Yes. Did it drape nicely? Also yes. But it creased. Like it came out of the package creased. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to deal with this. I'm just not going to be able to deal with it. And some polyester is absolutely fine. I have polyester blouses in my collection that work for me really, really well. But this one, it was a nightmare waiting to happen. So I was like, you know what? This is not going to be worth it. I know I will not be wearing it. I would buy it now just to fill that gap in my wardrobe, but I think I just need to give it a little bit more time. And that's definitely something that in the past 2 to 3 years, I've been doing more and more, where if I buy something or if I get it in and it's not quite right, I'm not going to settle for less. You know what I mean? I'm no longer going to settle for the next best thing. I'm gonna wait until I can afford or find the thing I truly want to get, rather than, you know, just buying the thing that looks like it could be the same thing. And sometimes that means I go the vintage route. So one of the things I wanted to have was a duffel coat. That's the thing I've been looking for, and I found a really pretty red one last spring, which someone had, I don't know, put in their attic. It had baubles on it. The only thing it needed was a good debobble, and it was good to go. But I liked it so much that I was like, oh, I want another one of them. And the reason why I didn't go online and buy the brand itself is because they're an English brand, and since Brexit, if you get anything from the UK that's over 150 euros, in addition to the shipping and handling fees, you also have to pay taxes, additional taxes. And since these coats by Gloverall, that's the brand I had found, go for 400 to 500 euros on their website, I was like, that is going to be an expensive coat, not only because of the initial purchase, but also that. And I just found out that Vinted is littered with Gloverall coats. And I was like, so I can get the brand, but I can get it from someone else. And now I've bought a navy one that's in excellent condition. It looks like it's brand new, but there were no tags on it anymore. Looks like it was never worn. And it's exactly the oversized duffel coat fit that I wanted it to have. And it was 50 euros. I was like, you know what, I'll just go secondhand if I need to, because there's always people getting rid of things that either don't know the value of the item or that do know the value of the item but just want to get rid of it so badly that they just don't charge that much for it. So I don't need any more winter coats. I'm now all set. I have that duffel coat of my dreams. In fact, I have it now in 2 different colors. One of them is shorter and a little bit more fitted, so that's going to be like less perfect for winter when you want to wear chunky knitwear underneath it. But the other one is the chunky oversized duffel coat that I really wanted it to be. I mean, it doesn't get any more perfect than this. And that's definitely been something that I have been doing for, I think, again, the past 2 to 3 years. When I found a vintage kilo sale really close to my house, I really got into vintage shopping. And now they've closed down, sadly. They no longer do them. But the last couple of times I went, I couldn't really find anything there. And the reason why I couldn't find anything there is because it was so popular with people who buy clothing to sell on Vinted. So I was like competing with these ladies who would show up with like these really, really big plastic bags, and everything that looked slightly interesting to them would go into this bag. They would drag it across the floor because it would be too heavy to carry. And then once they had looked at all of the clothing, they would like really take their time to go through the entire pile to look at the quality, to try things on, to see how they would fit. Not for them, but they would all buy it for resale. And I was like, I'm here just trying to find a cute piece for my own personal wardrobe and not to put it on Vinted. So that just, it kind of took the fun out of it the last couple of times I went. And it also meant that if you weren't there like right on the dot when it opened, all the good things were already gone. So a few times I managed to like be there right before they opened and like wait until they opened up. And I could find the good things, but it just became so much of a chore. And now on Vinted, I can just like scroll on my phone, find the items I like, wait a couple of weeks to see if they sell out or not, and then pay for it and have it shipped over. And by the way, I don't think you can see, but here's my skirt that I'm wearing today. This is vintage. I found it in Germany when I was in Cologne in June, and it was June, so it was warm. So this is I don't think it's wool, but it is a tartan print skirt, and I was like, that is perfect for the fall season. So I'm just wearing it with my nice little green sweater that I've had for a few years from And Other Stories. And that's just really something that I have been noticing, especially with my wardrobe. I've been slowly but surely replacing the things that were fast fashion with better quality items in fabrics and materials that last a lot longer, so that I can really build a wardrobe that's going to last me until I retire. That's sort of like the aim here. Like, this skirt is timeless. If I fit into it, which I hope I will, my weight doesn't fluctuate all that much, so I know I will be able to get a lot of use out of this in the next couple of years, and I'm probably just going to wear it until it's dead. That's the plan. And that's the plan with most of my wardrobe, actually, to keep things around. Even if things currently don't fit me, even then, I sometimes love the item enough that I'm like, yeah, I do want to keep it around because it is that good. And that's how I end up with a lot of clothing. Not just because I have a lot of clothes, but also because I hang on to things. Even if things are currently not the style, the go-to thing to wear, I will hang on to things because guess what? Fashion happens in cycles. Trends come and go. So that if I do go back to it in a couple of years' time, it's just great that I still have my skinny jeans. You know, I still have all of them. They're tucked away into the corner of my wardrobe because at the minute, I'm not wearing skinny jeans. But I know they will be back. I know they will be back. And I will be hanging on to all of my looser fit denim that I have gotten my hands on in recent years, like my dad jeans that I wore the other day. I will just hang those up in the back of my wardrobe to like pull out when that is trending again. I have a couple of really good flared jeans as well. I tend to like a flared corduroy pant a lot better. But that's besides the point. But yeah, my tastes change, but sometimes things go back. And that's why I'm very against the adagio that I hear a lot of people say when they declutter their wardrobes. Oh, I haven't worn this in 6 months. I need to get rid of it. Or with eyeshadow palettes, like whenever I watch declutter videos, I cringe so hard when people say like, this has expired. It's been in my makeup collection for a year. No, honey, it's not expired. It's expired if it grows mold. That's when it's expired. It's makeup. It lasts 20 years or so. That the manufacturer doesn't recommend use like after a certain date. You know, the little pot on the back of all the packaging of your makeup. It's just the brand saying this is what we can guarantee is the shelf life. Guarantee. So it's very conservative. The same thing with actually expiration dates on a lot of food. It's a very conservative best before. The name already says it. The best quality we can guarantee is until this point in time. So that could be 48 months with a lot of makeup. But that doesn't mean that it's expired the moment it's like, ooh, I've had this for 2 years, I now need to chuck it. No. If it looks good, smells good, it hasn't changed texture, if it still swatches like you remember it doing, if it still applies with a brush the way you remember it applying, you're good to go. You can still use it. Just like that pack of rice that's been hiding in the back of your cupboard that maybe has an expiration date of, I don't know, 2023, you can still eat it. You'll be absolutely fine. You'll be absolutely fine. It's really something that you can still do. The only thing with food, I know you need to be very careful with like raw fish and like shellfish and things like that, and meat as well. Like those kind of things you really need to be very careful with. That needs to go once it's expired. But most other things, there are different best before dates. That's how it's been explained to me. Like there are different dates and it depends on whether it says best before or best until. I think like there's a very minute difference in the phrasing on your packaging, especially with food, whether it means you need to chuck it after it's expired or whether it's just you can still use it. It just the manufacturer doesn't guarantee it's going to be the best of the best anymore. So that's definitely how I like always feel about these declutters with people just like chucking things because it's old. Or for instance, like with clothing, especially like if it's a perfectly fine item, but I haven't worn it in 6 months, I'm like, I live in a country with 4 seasons. Of course I haven't worn that really thick woolly sweater in 6 months. It was summer. Of course I haven't. So for me, I definitely think that there's just the way people talk about it, and especially also with clothing, the thing I have never understood of like online culture with influencers is them buying an entire new wardrobe because they're traveling. Am I the only person? Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. But whenever they go on a trip, they buy this entire, like, I don't know, it was usually a Boohoo or whatever affordable, like, Shein order they could muster. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, if someone were to ask me, like, hey, do you want to go on this, like, summer beachy vacation tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, sure, let me grab my bikini. you know? I have those items in my house so that I can dress for the occasion that happens. If there is an event, I had a wedding, like 2 weddings to go to this year. Do you think I went out and bought a new outfit for these weddings? No. I just went into my wardrobe. It's extensive enough. And I tried to see, is there anything that I would like to get, that I would like to wear, that I already own? So, of course you don't need to buy new stuff because it's your birthday. You don't need to buy new stuff because your cousin is getting married. You really don't. I know that a lot of people used to use those occasions to buy new clothes, but those were the only times in the year or in their lifetimes they would buy new clothes. But that's not how we shop anymore. So don't do the and thing, do the and or thing. Since I already buy items that I just run into and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that a lot. That's really cool. That fills a gap in my wardrobe. That's when I buy something. And of course, yeah, when I'm like, traveling around and I'm doing a bit of shopping, I'll find a couple of bits. But it's no longer the way it used to be. Like when I was in my 20s, I would come home from a trip to London with bags of Primark stuff. I've decluttered most of my Primark stuff. It's just not great quality. I have completely skipped that retailer nowadays. They used to do good hangers for my wardrobe, but now they've even discontinued those. So now I have no longer any reason to go in there. So yeah, I've definitely changed my life a little bit in that sense, and I try to do better. I'm not saying I'm the queen of underconsumption. I'm not trying to say that, but don't go by just what you see, because just because I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes or I have a lot of books or me having a lot of clothes isn't a sign of the fact that I'm over consuming. Do I have more makeup than the average person? Do I have more clothes than the average person? Do I have more books than the average person? Yes, but they're my passion projects. That's what I love. I've loved clothes since I was 12. For real. For real. So makeup is another passion of mine. Reading is another passion of mine. I majored in English for a reason, you guys, So these are also passions that have been with me for such a long time. And there are things that I remember wearing when I was a teenager where I was like, oh, I wish I still had that. You know what I mean? But very often those things just really, really got old. But I do still have my old book bag from back when I was 12. Still have that. So I definitely think that when it comes to the way we view things online, don't just judge a book by its cover, I guess. And just because someone has a lot doesn't mean that all of that stuff was bought in like the past year. Like I said, my books, clothes, and also makeup, like these are things I've been curating and working with for years now. Years. Literal years. And I just really, these are my 3 areas in life that I enjoy most, that I like spending money on more than others. I just don't spend money on other things in life that you may be spending money on, that other people may be spending on. And those are just choices that I make, and that doesn't mean that that is necessarily wrong. So, for instance, if you collect stamps or anything like that, you could have albums and albums full of stamps that you've collected over a lifetime. And that's definitely how I view those areas in my life as well. What I dislike, especially online as well, is people who just like haul one thing after another. I do hauls, but for instance, fashion hauls, I do every few months or so, and then I show you the bits I got over time. And the same thing with like my makeup hauls, I do them once a month on here, and I try to space them out so that I have a good amount to show you every single month. But again, the only reason why I buy a bit of makeup every single month is also because this channel makes a bit of money, and then I put that money towards some of my makeup purchases, and that's what keeps this channel fresh and going for the most part as well. So there is a little bit there, but I definitely also try to be mindful of what I do and don't buy for making content with. I'm not just going to buy the newest palette by whatever brand just because it's going to be good content. I have to like it, it has to be interesting to me, and it has to be something that I feel passionate about. And if it's not, it doesn't get bought, even if it's for the views, because I'm not here for the views. I'm here because I'm just really having a good time chatting about makeup with you guys. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's why I'm having this really long, ranty chat about all of these consumption kind of things. And yes, my videos are very much steeped in consumerism because that's what makes for really easy to talk about content. Not gonna lie. It's the easiest thing to talk about products, to talk about my clothes, to talk about books. I'm here because I want to have fun. I'm not here to discuss politics with you. I'm not here to discuss, I don't know, how to get a job or like the big questions in life. That's not my aim. That's not my aim, because I'm just here to have a good time. I'm doing this on my free Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting on my couch, having a cup of tea and filming a video for you guys. And that's how I can keep it fun. And that's why this channel has been going for as long as it's been going. Apparently the channel has been around for 10 years. I didn't realize. But yeah, I did start this channel officially in 2014. And again, I only started it so I could film a video every once in a while. This was not a plan. This was not in the cards for me. Not a decade ago. Definitely not close to 15 years ago when I first started my blog. If you told me then that I would have this many subscribers who would follow my every move, I was like, are you crazy? That's how I would have felt. So yeah, I just think that there's definitely like different ways in which we do things, and I know there are tons of creators out there that just buy all the time. Those are just not the creators I watch. Those are not the creators I'm into. Those are not the creators I want to associate myself with either. And yes, I do buy things regularly, but I try to space it out. I have a budget. I try to be mindful of all of that, and also to try and work that into the channel by not buying things and doing videos with things that don't have a long shelf life. I need to be able to love it for years. I finally hit pan on my Bali Sands Becca bronzer. No, that's not what it's called. It's the Becca Sunlit Bronzer in Bali Sands. I always mess up the name. But I hit pan on that thing. Of course, Becca is no longer around as a brand, but I've continued to use that product because I love it to pieces. And now I have a good sizable bit of pan, and the next goal is to try and use it up, because wouldn't that be fun? I don't think I've ever used up an entire bronzer in my lifetime, but it could be a fun project to try and do that in 2025 over the summertime. Maybe I can, maybe I won't. I don't care if I fail, but at least I've tried it. I use up a couple of foundations every single year without fail. So I use up plenty of makeup, and that's also a video I do at the start of every new year. I save up all of my makeup and beauty empties for an entire year, and then I just talk you through it. I talk you through what I use up, why I use it up, and it's a lot of brow stuff, a lot of primers, a lot of complexion products, because those are the things that are easiest to get like daily use out of. Color products like lipsticks, eyeshadow, blush, bronzer, highlight, it's so much harder to get consistent use out of, especially with the amount I have, to really commit and hit pan. However, I did use up an eyeshadow this year. It's the one I used to set my eyeshadow base with. So I do use up eyeshadow, and I hit pan on it, and I do all that. So there's definitely that as well. So I don't know how you guys feel about underconsumption, but the whole trend, the way I saw it going live and people like talking about all the old stuff in their houses, on the one hand, I understand it because, you know, with the whole Stanley Cup craze that's going on, I felt like we needed sort of like the contrary movement to sort of that whole spiel. But at the same time, I also feel it's a little bit silly because you need to make the choices that are right for you, that fit your budget, that fit your lifestyle, and that fit the interests that you have. And We live in a consumer market. I mean, I don't know about you guys and how things are being reported on in your countries, but in my country, one of the main concerns is whether people have spending power. That's definitely one of the concerns that is always being written about. So whether you can spend money is definitely something that our culture is just steeped in, at least over here. And I don't think it's that different for many other places. So yeah, I definitely think that because we live in that system, there are also things we just always will be doing. We will always be enticed to do, you could say. But I definitely try to be mindful. I try to think about what I buy, and be more sustainable by also simply not throw it away. That's definitely been my way of being an under consumer is, yes, I have a lot of clothes. Yes, I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. Yes, I have a lot of books. But if a product is still great, in great condition, in great quality, but it's just not right for me right now, I very often just hang on to it because I will fall back in love with it. I have gone through these cycles so many times where I would regret getting rid of it if I were to throw it away right now. If I put it in a bag to donate to charity, or if I gave something away to a friend or a family member or a colleague, I know I would regret it. And that's why I'd rather hang on to something. The purchase has already been made. The money has been spent. The item is taking up space in my home. So if it can still take up that space and it doesn't need to go anywhere, then why would I get rid of it? Why would I just... I don't know. So for me, yes, I do hang on to things that maybe I'm not wearing at the minute. Yeah, I do. Maybe I do have that eyeshadow palette that is indeed 10 years old, but it's still sitting in a closet somewhere because it has sentimental value for me. Nothing wrong with that. So I definitely think we could be a bit more mindful altogether, I think. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to unpack, how I deal with those things in my personal life. Maybe it can inspire some people to do the same. Who knows? But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this ranty. I feel like I went all over the place. I don't know if I even covered the talking points I mentioned at the start of the video. I hope you don't mind. I just meandered my way through this and I'm like, you know what? I think I've made my point clear. So thank you so very much for joining me here today. Like I said, make sure to leave your thoughts in a comment down below. I would love to hear it. And then I hope you'd like to stay tuned for more. And then I hope to see you in my next one because I will be back with another Tea Time Chat in November. Bye-bye.